Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. So, I realize that sometimes things I say can be frustrating. I told you to come out of her, my people, and you did. And so maybe you left your high-paying job for a lesser one. You definitely paid moving expenses. You got a new place. This is all economically real, right? And now you're in your perfect little slice of heaven. You've already bugged out because the last place was terrible from a survival prepper standpoint. So now you've moved to this, little place in the country, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. And now Pastor Joe's telling you that's not your bug out location. You got to bug out. You got to have a bug out location designated. And you're like, well, money doesn't grow on trees, at least ways around here. How am I going to make that happen? And so I'm going to try and help there a little bit and give you all some ideas. But first, I need some water. Oh, I'm out. Bummer. It can cost a lot of money, but it need not, right? And so some of this is old ground, but hopefully it'll strike in you, it'll hit you this time and make it work, or it'll allow you to spin off different ideas that are helpful. A great choice for a bug out look. And again, these options I'm going to give you are good for people who don't have a bug out location. I mean, I'm talking to the people kind of specifically who moved to what they thought was their bug out location and were calling it that, and I just kind of squashed those dreams and told you now you need a bug out location. You're like, with what? But if you don't have a bug out location and you can't afford to go buy a little slice of heaven, then here's some other ideas. First one, good one, is a relative or a friend that lives outside of your zone that will allow you to pre-position stuff and will make an agreement with you that you can come to their place should you have to. How far away does this person have to be? I would say far enough away that it will allow you to avoid the problems that are causing you to leave your place in the first place, right? If God forbid you're not in a place that's tenable, you live in a city, it could just be, an hour away in the suburbs. That would be better than being in the city, right? But let's assume you already live in a place that's decent, so you're outside of population zones. How far away would you want to get? Because what would cause you to flee your place that's already not surrounded by population? Radiation, fallout, pandemic flu, pandemic sickness, pandemic in your area. That's not necessarily everywhere else. Maybe you're in an area that would be affected by a massive tornado or a hurricane or Yellowstone or something like that, right? And so you have to, at this point, you have to kind of identify the threats that would potentially cause you to leave, and then you need to find a place outside of that threat zone. Friend or relative. Sometimes friends are easier to work with than relatives, in my experience, because I make friends with people who think similarly to the way I do, preppers. And I have some standing deals with some people. One of my good friends lives in Louisiana, right? That's pretty far away from me. But we have a deal, mi casa, su casa. You can show up at my place with nothing and I will take care of you. And I can show up at his place with nothing and he will take care of me. And at first we thought, and I have other friends like that. I'm just using this for an example. At first I thought, well, why don't I store food for my people, guns and ammo for my people, medical supplies for my people at your place and you do the same. But then that's kind of dumb in our case because we're both uber prepped, so we didn't do that. We just have the agreement, show up. And if you come, I'd appreciate it if you'd bring these things. And I have different arrangements with different people. One of the people that I have an arrangement with wants me to bring my critters. The other person wants me to bring something else, which I'm not going to talk about. But he wants me to bring something else, doesn't need the critters, right? So you may have different arrangements, but the thing is we have those arrangements. And so I know I have a bug out place. And in every case, I have thought about where I'm going to put these people up when they show up. And I'm sure they have also. We're going to put PJ and his family in this bedroom or this shed or this garage or, whatever. Maybe the camper that's out back, something. But they've thought about that. So that is a way. You just make an arrangement with somebody. Now, how do you make friends with somebody 5 states away? 3 states away, 2 states away, 1 state away. How do you do that? You got to get out. You got to meet people. In some of the cases, there are people I knew when I lived where I lived and they moved. In other cases, I met these people at regional gatherings and things, events that are advertised, and certain people show up. I'm trying to see, to that end, how these little Viking events start going. I would like to see them morph into something bigger than meeting at a restaurant and talking. I would like to see it morph to, after a group meets and gets to know each other, maybe they decide, hey, let's rent this group campsite at the state park and have a Viking event, where people can come and do prepper classes and hang out and talk. I would like to see it morph to that, because when you have something like that, people come from further away. Right, but you need a core cadre to, that 10% to make it happen. But that's how I met some of the other ones too. So a friend. Other thing is a relative. Aunt Millie. Do I say Aunt Millie or Aunt Matilda? I probably say them both. Aunt Millie or Aunt Matilda, their place, if they have a ranch or whatever. Can you stay there? And if they don't have enough prepper supplies for you and your family to show up, then you need to make a deal with friends or relatives. Can I store some stuff there? They may not have any room. Okay, but I bet you they have room for you to put a nice looking shed on their property, right? So you could put a tough shed, or that's not too expensive, and you could store it with food. And you're like, yeah, but I've already got food here. Now you want me to store food there? Yeah, I do. Food's important, and food is cheap right now. So yeah, that's one way you could do it. Another way you could do it is to find a place in the wilderness, whether that's national forest, a big state forest, wild grasslands, the desert, whatever. And after doing several reconnaissance trips around the area, you pick a place that has all the things you think you're going to need to survive. Now, I'm telling you, you're not going to go out there and be a mountain man and hunt, trap, and fish for everything I need. And so you're going to have to develop that place. Well, how do you do that without hikers finding it and destroying it? Caches, right? So you'll have to go out to this place and put in a camp cache. And so I think you should, start with tarps and fire making materials and rope and some tools, and then get to caching food. Certainly cache fishing gear and hunting gear and stuff like that if you need to, but just start building it up over time. And start putting stuff out there, and I call it a spike camp, so that you can just go out there, boom, and set up. Some things you could do in advance, like in Alaska, there's places where people set up temporary permanent camps where they'll go ahead and put up the poles and everything for the tent cabin. They'll build the walls for the tent cabin, and then they hide the tarp and the boxes of gear nearby. And if they get there, they pull the tarp out, stretch it over the ridge pole, drag the boxes of stuff in, and they've got a cabin set up and running pretty quick. So you could do something like that. If you're near a coast, another thing you could do is get a boat and outfit it. If you're a sailor, right? If you know how to do that, that could be a bug out option. Of course, you'd have to think about water, drinking water, and water everywhere and not a drop to drink. You'd have to think about food. Despite what you think, there's not fish everywhere in the ocean, but fishing gear should go a long way on a boat. So you could think about that. That's money. I get it. Wilderness, my mind is going to different places I've been. There's some places that are just full of so many lakes and so many little islands out there that you could just go to one of those islands and put a cache in and nobody would ever find it, and then you'd be set up. I'm talking islands smaller than half a football field, just little islands in lakes. What else could you do? You could outfit a mobile vehicle home thing. The problem here is supplies. But you could outfit like a motorhome or depending if there's only two of you, like a Suburban or something, and you could put enough gear in there to live on, a tent, food, the ability to catch and purify water. So it'd be like a mobile thing. Now that's a horrible bug out. It's not a bug out location, but it's better than nothing if you don't have any money right now, right? And it's like we're going to become refugees, but we're going to become very well equipped refugees. It's better than nothing, but you need to settle it down till you have an area. Don't rest on your laurels if all you have is a bug out vehicle that's nicely packed. So those are ideas. Another idea is to buy or rent a house outside of your danger zone. You're like, how am I going to do that? I'm fixing to buy probably a city lot. A house, it's technically a city. It's not in a city, people. It's on like 6 blocks of town surrounded by prairie. One lot that has a falling down house on it for probably less than $500. Houses go up for sale in tax sales for less than $1,000. You could do something like that and then just go there and again cash stuff or store it in the local you rent it place and just have a house out away from it all, out away from the hustle and bustle, and it gives you options, right? And you could cache stuff in the subfloor. No one would know. So these are ideas. I'm sure you can think of some others. And actually, I would like this video to be one where people with good ideas for alternates to not a lot of money for bug out locations. What can you do? Where can you go? Just remember this. You don't want to be a refugee, which means you don't want to be constantly mobile, because that's not going to work. We can go through historical example after historical example. You don't want to pretend that you're going to be some mountain man that's going to feed your whole family out there. It's just not going to happen. And again, I could go over reasons and reasons for that. So you have to have a viable plan. But they're out there. Got to think outside the box sometimes. All right. I hope this was helpful. I hope it gets the wheels turning. I'll see you out there.